All right, guys, welcome to This Week in Crypto. I'm your host, Brian, here on October 4th, 2024. It's been a down week for crypto, but the last, we'll call it 10 hours, have looked a bit better with some altcoins beginning to turn things around. If I switch the category from 7 days to 1 day, all of a sudden we have a sea of green. And that's because we saw a rally start to form when Asian stock markets were opening up. Likely a correlation there still, but it's hard to say. It is an up day for stock markets after kind of a topsy-turvy week in that lane. And the argument now is whether crypto is latched on to economic conditions at the moment or whether they're just kind of having a relief rally or a regression to the mean after quite a bit of blood in the early to mid part of this week. So, what we're looking at right now are some of the stars of just the past 24 hours. And we do see assets like Shiba Inu, BitTensor, which has been super volatile all year long. Render is up there, one of the top AI and big data assets. Stacks, which is another one that's been in the news as of late, and Dog with Hat at about plus 9%. These are some of the highlights and some of the best performers in the past 24 hours. But again, when we switch to the 1 week time frame, it's still looking like there's been quite a bit of pain. So overall, if we look at the previous week, it's a bit of a struggle, and I've seen some of the optimism that was really maxing out a week ago slowly turn into frustration, a little bit of FUD, a little bit of doubt and uncertainty that Bitcoin can even hold the 60K level. It's sitting at 61.4K right now, and arguably is back on the slight upswing path. But, we're looking at a pretty tight range here right now, anywhere between 60K to 62K is where we've been sitting for 2 to 3 days now. And the consensus that I think most of us have at Santiment is if this lasts through the weekend and the rally fails to really take form, we expect that a lot of the sentiment is going to start turning bearish in a hurry. Now, we can, of course, quantify that. This is the ratio of positive versus negative sentiment multiplied by social dominance. So we're throwing in that factor of how much Bitcoin is being talked about compared to other assets. And it really peaked out here from the 20th all the way to the 26th or so. And we were saying right about here, if you were following us on our insights page or our X/Twitter page or other socials, we said, yeah, things are looking pretty euphoric at the moment. We wouldn't be surprised if things start to regress and we see a bit of a fall. And there was some big backlash to it. We had a pretty heavy mix of agree comments as well as visceral hate and accusations that we're manipulating markets, which of course we don't. We don't have whales on this team. We're simply analyzing markets. And sure enough, we saw a big correction pretty much right after this occurred. And since that time, it's been kind of attempted rallies, but mostly failures. And now we're sitting at 61, which is, of course, a mild rise from that 60.2K bottom, I believe, 60.1, it looks like. And the question now is the crowd starting to show the doubt that is necessary for prices to rise again? Now, I want to do this as well. I'm going to take off social dominance for a moment and just look at the positive versus negative sentiment by themselves, which is arguably even a more accurate way to look at just the overall picture. Let's make this really small, not quite that small. That should be right. Okay. Yeah, so I mean it's sitting in the middle position. If you looked at it this way, and I'm just going to ballpark this, let's call that anything below that very negative, and anything above right about there as very positive, We're still on the slightly below neutral range, which would be right around there. Um, and I would be very optimistic if we fall below this line here. This is right about, call it, 3 positive comments for every 2 negative comments. If we start to see a ratio below that, that means the crowd is quite bearish at the moment. And you can see almost every time that it's fallen below this line in the past 6 months, we've seen a quick bounce. It's not a coincidence. The crowd moves the opposite direction of the price moves the opposite direction of the crowd's expectation almost all the time. So look for these as bottoms and look for these as tops. And we've seen several moments where it's gone way above the normal ratio of positive to negative comments, and that's resulted in a very predictable top. Of course, it's not a perfect science. We don't just look at this chart and say, I'm bullish or I'm bearish based on this, but I would put this in the top 5 of indicators that can be checked on a frequent basis and give you a pretty good predictability result in terms of its indication and power as a signal. Besides that, so going back here, I want to point out that the social volume for Bitcoin has actually dropped in the past week, as has Ethereum, even more so. There's 10% less talks related to Ethereum than there was the week prior. XRP has been the big star in terms of discussion rate. It's been a consistent leader on our top trending coins dashboard, seeing double the amount of um, discussion on social media compared to a week ago. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Let's head over to our trending coins here. You can see that it's actually off the top 10 as of now, as the talks have kind of focused more on the pumping assets out there. But if I go back a day, XRP is here at number 1. And the main reason is, number 1, there's an appeal. It doesn't show on this AI summary, but there's an appeal from the SEC in terms of the deadline to argue that XRP is a security. XRP is obviously taking the stance that it's not, and most of the crypto community want there to be the result of XRP not being a security. But that deadline's coming up in 3 days. That would be Monday. And on top of that, Bitwise filed an ETP, not to be confused with an ETF, which would be the case if XRP was a security. But as of now, they're deemed a non-security, so they could file an ETP, which gives them a bit more flexibility. And people have been pretty excited about it. That happened just a couple days ago. The Bitwise and the CEO made a joint announcement about that filing, and if granted, it would be the third asset in crypto to have its own, ETF slash ETP that can be used to get exposure to a coin without having to own the coin. And that, in theory, brings in a lot of mass adoption and new investors that, for whatever reason, whether it's fear of owning coins or lack of understanding or laziness or who knows what else, it's generally a very good thing for that coin if that ETF slash ETP gets approved. So many eyes are on that. That gave XRP a bit of a boost, both price wise and social volume wise. But of course, it peaked here a couple days ago and it's cooled off since in terms of discussion rate. And I think a lot of eyes are on it right now because just like we saw with Bitcoin and Ethereum when their ETFs were approved, the initial reaction price wise was a downfall, even though the news was good. So it's one of those buy the rumor, sell the news impacts, even though there is no official news now. I think many people were already anticipating an XRP ETF. We had been hearing rumors about it since around June. That's at least when it started to get on my radar. Many of you XRP experts may have heard before then. And I think for many, the hype really began when they heard about the ETP filing a couple days ago, and then prices immediately fell. Now, granted, markets aren't in the best stable spot right now after a pretty big market-wide fall this past week. So assuming Bitcoin starts to gain its footing again, maybe starts to creep back up towards 65 or even beyond, that's where we could see XRP really start to thrive with this kind of news. But for now, the top trending assets are varying quite a bit. We see Aave as the top trending asset right now, with the recent launch of that Grayscale Aave Trust, which provides investors with exposure to the Aave token. So this is sort of a similar to an ETF. People would be able to get exposure to Aave without owning Aave, and uh, that would be exciting considering Aave is one of the best performers, especially over the past 3 to 4 months or so. I think it went up, it almost doubled in the past 3 months before having a bit of a slip over the past week, along with the rest of crypto. Monero also in the news, I believe for negative reasons. I know it was delisted from several major exchanges. Right now, it says it's trending due to discussions surrounding the privacy-focused crypto. Users are sharing insights on the unique features. We know about the anonymous transactions. I'm surprised that the AI summary doesn't have something more specific than that. This should tell us, though, key concerns include regulatory scrutiny as governments are increasingly targeting privacy coins due to their potential use in illicit activities. And by the way, this was probably inevitable, I think, for a lot of um, nefarious activities and hacks and things like that that most of you have heard about in crypto. Monero is often one of the first tokens that's brought up as a method for these traders or hackers, I should say, to um, funnel out coins from innocent people. So I guess to a certain extent, the crypto community should be pretty happy about Monero getting a little bit of crackdown and a increased focus in terms of regulatory procedure. But we'll have to see what happens here. I think right now the price is plummeting and probably will continue to. Chainlink, also a very popular social media asset, trending due to its association with Swift's collab in blockchain technology and interoperability. Multiple texts highlight the successful trials involving Chainlink's cross-chain interoperability protocol and its role in connecting various blockchain networks for financial institutions. The discussions emphasize the potential for Chainlink to be a key player in the future of digital asset adoption across the global financial system, particularly in relation to Swift's initiatives. So this is pretty positive news. Obviously, when Link is starting to see a bit of tech advancements, people get pretty excited. That is one of the primary reasons that a lot of investors and traders latch onto assets like Link for its unique niche in the markets and ability to provide something that other blockchains don't. So look for Chainlink if Bitcoin rebounds to see a bit of a boost itself. I believe it's close to $11 right now, maybe closer to 1050 last I checked about 24 hours ago. Okay. So besides trending tokens, if we just look at the overall amount of trending words, we have Satoshi here. HBO, I saw yesterday, claims in a new doc that they have the true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. Pretty cool, if true. I think there's still a lot of doubt, and the claims made in the doc are seeing a bit of ho hum from the community right now, where they just don't think that there's enough evidence to support what HBO is saying, and this may all be kind of a sensationalized claim to get viewers. Regardless, it's brought up a pretty widespread new level of discussion related to Satoshi and the original founder of Bitcoin. Once again, uh, whoever Satoshi is, I think most people believe there is a Satoshi, and he has preferred to stay, he or she has preferred to stay anonymous, I believe for security reasons mostly. But if the news comes out that you know, one individual or a group of individuals ends up being the identity of Satoshi, it can change a lot in crypto, and you guys might be surprised. And it's a little more than just a niche topic, but you can see it's really the subject is scattered among the top four topics here with various words related to that. We have Swift, which is related to Chainlink. Thursday Social. We've seen Velo doing a ton of positive or at least successful marketing to get a lot of people talking about its asset through initiatives like Thursday Social. Interesting that Grass is up to number 7. This is a new asset with just the ticker Grass being launched on Binance's launch pool. And the project promises significant returns. No surprise there. Pretty much every new project promises that. And it's generated excitement and engagement within the crypto community. Keep an eye on Grass. And by the way, when we see a lot of speculative assets really starting to trend and hit the top 10 on the trending tokens list, that's when you want to be a bit concerned that we're getting toppy. I'm not going to say Grass being here is enough evidence of that, but we'll check out meme coins next in general just to see how much focus and popularity has returned to them after the 10 to 12 hour rally that we've seen going on among altcoins. And don't forget, we have had a lot of chatter about October. I've said this before on previous calls by myself or with guests. A lot of people believe that this is the best, if not one of the best, performing months in crypto. So for people who like timing plays, they refer to this month as Uptober due to its historic success, whether it be, due to the kickoff of the final quarter of 20 of whatever year it is, and obviously the end of the year is obviously when people finalize their realized returns on investments. So they want to get in as many profits as possible. So theoretically, many believe this is the time when whales like to pump before they sell off at the end of the year. I personally believe it is nonsense. And I know that might not be a popular opinion. October can still be a great month for crypto this year. What I'm saying is the 15-ish years that crypto has existed is not nearly enough of a sample size for us to deem a certain month out of the year as a particularly successful one, and another month is a particularly bearish one. If anything, if the crowd really starts to latch on to keywords like Uptober and they believe that it's crypto in general is all just timing and you sell all year and then buy a bunch in October, the reverse result usually ends up happening in October will end up being a particularly bad month. So the fact that it's been getting so much attention as a historically good performing month should be concerning to you because of the fact that so many novice traders appear to be spamming, October and their bullish expectations right now. And we need to be seeing fear right now, especially after a week-long retrace that we've just had. Uh, there is still just a lot of defiant belief that because one of the historically better performing months has arrived, crypto markets are just going to resume their bull rally. And that's not really how it goes. Now, maybe if we had like 150 years worth of sample data rather than 15, and we look and we say, oh, October's gone up 11 out of the 15 years that an October has happened, um, things would be different. But right now, this is, any statistician will tell you we're not nearly deep enough into crypto to be able to declare that one month is almost always good and one month is always bad. Now, we have had enough Fridays to say that Friday is a historically better performing performing day of the week than other days of the week. But anyone who knows stats knows that 100% of Fridays have not been good in crypto. It might perform just slightly better than other days of the week. But if you're just defiantly buying every Friday and selling every Saturday, you're going to get burned eventually. So just take this conversation about timing with a grain of salt, because it'll often end up really hurting you if you look at crypto in such a simplified manner. Um, you can still deal with probabilities, right? We do know that Fridays are historically days where people get paychecks and inject a bit more into crypto, and we tend to see temporary rallies, especially in the afternoons, my time, Pacific time in the US. Sometime between the 3 to 7 p.m. is generally a rally time for crypto, even when it's had a rough week, or even especially when it's had a rough week, we see a bit of a rebound during that time. But one or two whales can sell off a huge bag and make that theory go out the window. And we never really know until we're there. And this is why I generally tell people time in the market almost always beats timing in the market. If you're holding for a long period of time and not trying to split hairs quite so precisely, you'll usually beat out most of the people who are uh, looking at the charts with a magnifying glass and marking dates on their calendar as to when they want to buy or sell. So that's my little tangent about that. Moving on, we've talked about weighted sentiment a little bit, and we already looked at Bitcoin's positive versus negative ratio. Take a look at the overall weighted sentiment just in terms of discussion rate multiplied by their positive versus negative commentary right now. And Bitcoin is actually a little below neutral. This is the lowest it's been, at least in the limited part of the new week that we've seen, which starts every Friday, since the week of July 17th. Ethereum way down there too. You can see it's quite negative. Binance Coin, very negative. XRP even slightly negative after there was a bit of an uptick in excitement to kick off October. And then Cardano way down there, seeing a lot of negative sentiment right now. So I like the sign of this a lot. You can see how much people were euphoric around this range here in August, which ended up being a very bad month. And then gradually we saw all of these top caps turn toward a negative sentiment, which is what we want to see for prices to turn around. So I like the look of that. And then I want to show how our whales are behaving at this time. Here we go. So the 10 plus BTC wallets out there right now, continuing to climb, which is quite a relief to me. I think that there was a little bit of worry when we flattened out right here. And these are usually the times when we start to see a top. That's exactly what happened. And then as soon as things dropped, the question was, are they actually going to continue accumulating? I really wasn't sure. And the answer was yes. Since September 29th, just the past 4 full days, because the fourth is still ongoing, we've seen an accumulation of 2,280 more BTC among 10 plus BTC wallets. Very good sign that we'll see a recovery. I don't know if it'll be an immediate recovery. It depends on the crowd as well, which has at least started to get back toward neutral. But overall, just looking at the past 6 months, it's been a big accumulation fest as of late. 63,084-ish BTC tokens have been accumulated by these wallets in the past 6 months. That's a pretty good trajectory. And we can even back out. Let's go last 4 years. Take off the axis constraints here. And yeah, there have been plenty of times where these 10 plus BTC wallets have moved down, especially in the early part of 2022, as a lot of whales and sharks correctly identified that interest rates would be risen this year, and they jumped out in a hurry. Bitcoin fell substantially. Of course, Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison and other FTX characters contributed to the fall, as we now have learned. But when whales and sharks are moving their coins down, it's pretty rare that Bitcoin doesn't follow. They'll always tend to be on the right side of the coin, and they have accumulated pretty much ever since the end of 2022, very beginning of 2023. And it's been looking pretty good ever since, just like we saw in beginning all the way back in late 2020, which was still prime pandemic time, and all of this accumulation was happening as most of the world was wearing masks and being quite concerned and being stuck at home. But Bitcoin was moving in the right direction. Yes, it had plenty of volatility in between, and this is a super long-term indicator. But for the health of BTC and crypto overall, you definitely want to be rooting for this line to continue climbing, and that's what it's been doing. By the way, supply and exchanges is also continuing to move down substantially. We are way down here at about 9.4%. Uh, if we go back, let's go back a full decade, which may have a little bit of inaccurate data because I know that we've added so many new wallets along the way here. But at least based on this, I'm seeing that it's at its lowest supply and exchanges since November 2018, right after we saw that huge influx of coins moving to exchanges when we were really bottoming out around 3,400 or so. So that's a good sign as well. And notice how Tether is continuing to just see a huge increase in supply on exchanges right now, up to $23.1 billion. USD coin a little more conservative, kind of moving back down here. It's sitting at $2.6 billion. But I like the sign of stable coins, especially Tether, continuing to move up in terms of its overall amount of power and dry powder sitting on exchanges and ready to be injected into more buys of Bitcoin and other altcoins out there. All right. Supply held by miners. Let me take a quick sip. So the supply held by addresses that we have identified as mining addresses have been moving down pretty substantially. If we look over the past year or so, you can see the tremendous increase that occurred as prices were rising. There's definitely some correlation between how many coins miners are holding and where Bitcoin is going. And you can see several times where they've very temporarily accumulated, then dropped off considerably, accumulated again here. And you can see how the top occurred just as miners were dropping their assets. If we zoom in so we can see the candles a little bit better, actually, we don't need to. We'll do it this way. We'll just switch to a line chart where you can get a little more granular with the price and align it with the miners. Let's do 4 hours for both. So the price of Bitcoin kind of topped just a little bit after the miners dumped here. And we can see very clearly it started to top just before miners sold off here. They definitely have an effect. And it is a little concerning that the mining balances, especially since mid-April, have dropped off substantially. They've sold off a total of about 5.5% of their existing tokens, and that's a lot. That's 122.6K BTC, which is, I believe, tens of billions of dollars. Miners have a lot of impact, and of course, they overlap a lot with these whales and sharks. Tons of miners have more than 10 Bitcoin, and there's a correlation between the two. But you can see overall, the 10 plus BTC line is continuing to move up, while the miner balances are moving down. I'd like to see them both moving up before we really start to see a confirmed bull rally taking place, and we're not quite there yet. All right, we're a half hour in. Also want to show where we're at with the round number mentions. We have 70 to 75K mentions on social media here, 60 to 65K here, and 50 to 55K here. Um, 70 to 75 is not being mentioned much, which is good. So we're not seeing a lot of people very bullish and speculating that we might be seeing an all-time high sometime soon. I wouldn't expect them to be talking about that, considering we've been on the downswing over the past week. So you can see pretty clearly the amount of discussions related to a potential all-time high really peaked right at the top. What a coincidence. It happens all the time in crypto. You see people dreaming about future prices and then prices crash. And then alternatively, you see people fearful of going all the way below 50K like we did on September 6th, and all of a sudden prices bounce. So look for these as great counter indicators during any time in the crypto markets. By the way, if Bitcoin falls to 40K or launches up to 100K, put in round numbers that are either 15 to 20% higher than the current price or 50%, 15 to 20% lower than the current price, and you'll get lots of valuable information in terms of traders' speculation on what future prices are coming up. And then the opposite uh, result generally happens. It's like clockwork, and it's actually quite a bit of fun to monitor. I know that it's real money and it's stressful, but if you can kind of zoom out and really understand the psychology behind how traders work and their minds work and the crowd think and power behind that, you can really start to tune in to how people are thinking beyond just following, your own news feed and kind of getting an anecdotal uh, picture. This is much more, you're looking at millions and millions of comments rather than just taking 5 to 10 comments when you scroll down your news feed and seeing that 8 of them are positive, right? That's generally not enough sample, and sometimes you might get false information or a false idea of how the crowd is thinking when you just take a small snapshot of what people have been talking about over the last hour on Twitter. So that's why I really like this stuff. And of course, you can break it down by different social media. Look at Reddit, especially how they commented a lot about 60 to 65K when it was on the verge of falling below 60K here, and then all of a sudden it bounces. Telegram had a huge spike in 70 to 75, even after prices were retracing. So they were being pretty defiant here, and then prices fell further, and they stopped talking about 70 to 75 so much. Same here on Twitter. This is where it really indicated the top was coming. Twitter is probably the most valuable of these platforms. If you want to look at just one in isolation, Twitter/X is probably the one because of its volume. And they called 70 to 75 just as prices were topping around 66, and then it fell. Okay, so we've talked about some of the psychology going on, crowd think, what whales are doing. We'll take a brief look at just some of the traditional Bitcoin on-chain metrics now, and then I will wrap it up with some altcoins that you should be watching based on what the activity matrix is indicating right now. Transaction volume, fairly neutral, nothing special going on there. Active addresses, we did see a big spike here on September 30th. We need to zoom out the candles. So that's a rough color to look at right now. Let's make that darker. Long story short, we saw the largest active address spike on October 1st since looks like June 30th. So we're looking at about a 3-month high there. And it's fallen a little bit, but you can see the overall trend in address activity. It's moving in the right direction. Don't pay attention to this current day, which brings the average down, but it is starting to move back up. The amount of addresses that are active on a daily basis is back up to about 720,000 after being as low as 682,000 back on September 8th. So in 4 weeks, we've kind of turned things around a bit. Still a long way to go to match what we were seeing back post all-time high in early April, where we were way up at 933,000. And circulation, by the way, is still quite disappointing. I'd like to see more unique tokens being moved on a daily basis to confirm that the network is really starting to pick up steam and utility is coming back to the number one asset in crypto. MVRV. So looking at average trader returns, it's about as neutral as you're ever going to see. Currently, the average returns of addresses active in the past 30 days sits at negative 0.17%. So really things can go either way. There's not an enormous amount of profiting going on or an enormous amount of losing going on. It's right stuck in the middle at the moment. The 365-day MVRV does show a very slight amount of profit among traders active in the past year. I would still call this neutral. You can see how high it was way back in early April. During the all-time high, it was actually above 70%. So that's not the time you want to be in. You want to be in when things are looking a little more like this, when the short and long-term MVRVs are below 0%. That's when there's a ton of pain in crypto and you'd be buying while there have been a significant amount of losses in what is a zero-sum game as crypto is. Funding rates also looking quite neutral at the moment. We want to see little bars like this, which we did right at the local bottom back on Wednesday, but things have bounced a bit ever since. Look at all the shorts going on during this bottom area last month. That would be a very good sign for crypto, but we're not there yet. We're kind of sitting in neutral territory. At the very least, we're not seeing tons of longs going on like we did back in the first or second week of April. So this is a pretty neutral indicator as well. Whale transactions are doing very little at the moment. That's of course the $1 million plus. I was looking at this the other day, and I think I removed the 100K. So let me put that back. Clicked on the wrong chart. Let's try one more time. There it is. Make that 1 day. Yeah, so the amount of activity among whales isn't really doing anything special at the moment. Last time we saw a really significant spike was right at the crash. So you can see how much they were accumulating after Bitcoin retraced all the way to 49.5K here on August 4th. But ever since then, it's kind of just going through its normal fluctuations. We'll, of course, let you know if we start to see a big spike among whale transactions. However, there are plenty of assets out there that are seeing huge whale transaction spikes, and we're going to look into them now. This is our activity matrix where we can find which altcoins out there are seeing higher than usual or lower than usual network activity. And the redder the label is on this view, the more active or hot the network has recently become. Remember that hot doesn't necessarily always mean bullish. It tends to, and oftentimes you'll see networks pick up right before a pump, which is perfect and what the main use case is for this model, or it'll pick up right after a pump. And those are very different scenarios. If you start to see a big red label here, like Blue Zell, happening while its price is going down, which it has been pretty significantly, this is the 507th market cap asset. It has not been one of the best performers at all in 2024. This is a sign that it actually may have a pump coming up. It's increasing the probability of one, that is. It's certainly no guarantee, but you can see based on these little price labels, I'm going to make this a little bigger for a moment because I've heard complaints about it being too small when I show it on video. It's down 3% in the past 24 hours. That's one of the worst performers among this entire group of 105 to 110 altcoins. It's down 20% in the past week, which is also quite bad. It's up 8% in the past 30 days, which is about neutral, which is why it's showing a yellow color. And over the past 3 months, it's down 29%, which is one of the poorer performances over the past 90 days. But all these red squares that show based on October 3rd indicates that compared to Blue normal network activity, it's now seeing a huge influx of uh, of activity going on right now in terms of active addresses, network growth, whale transactions, key stakeholders that hold between 100,000 to $1 million. Social dominance is up. Exchange inflow versus outflow shows that there's a lot of outflow, which is good. Mean dollar age is the only one where we're not seeing much movement. And then age consumed, there's been a big spike too. So if we go over, I'll just use it as an example. I'll come back to this and show a few more assets. Blue BLZ is the ticker for those interested, and this is not investment advice to buy. It's an example of why the activity matrix is so helpful and how it increases the likelihood of a potential rise. So yeah, as expected, we see this huge rise in transaction volume, despite really not doing much at all, especially in the past week. It's been down significantly. Active addresses have been on a huge heater. This is the largest amount of active addresses we've seen. Might be all year long, to be honest. No, I take that back. But it is the largest since what looks like June 7th. So about a 3-month high there. 4-month, excuse me. Let's take a look at MVRV, actually. I think that's important, even though that isn't on the activity matrix at this time. There it is. Yeah, so MVRV is extremely low. If you were to buy into Blue right now, while it's down 52% in terms of 365-day active traders, or 5.5% in terms of 30-day active traders, you're definitely buying in during a lot of pain from other traders. So that's a good sign. Whale transactions, yeah, we at least see $1 million plus transaction going on right now, which is the most we've seen since July, to be honest. Let's make sure that the 100K is on there as well. Yeah, so this 100K plus whale transaction spike is the largest since May. So there's something going on here. Let's check the actual whale tiers to see if there's some legitimate accumulation. The price is sitting at, we'll call it 15 cents or so. So if we look at right around 100,000 or more, million or more, that's a big spike. 10 million, 100 million, and a billion. Okay, so we're just gonna merge these all together for a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit confirm. Yeah, not much. They definitely hold the vast majority of the supply. Let's add the 10K plus. Yeah, it's sitting pretty neutral. 100, the 1K to 10K tier is moving up as well. There's a little bit of promise. At the very least, we're not seeing whales selling it all right now. It's sitting pretty neutral. I'm going to go all the way down to total holders. And it's moving at a pretty normal pace right now. Ever since May, there's been a steady incline in new non-empty wallets being created, 234 over the past, call it 5 months or so. So overall, I mean, the activity has definitely risen for Blue. You can see the weighted sentiment is through the roof. There's something that's causing the crowd to talk about it a lot more, and I'm not sure what it is. The social dominance isn't really anything special, but it does look like just the overall positive versus negative sentiment is through the roof, because that's what that huge weighted sentiment spike is mostly related to. For some reason, I think it might just be the axis being super off. Let's do this. There we go. Yeah, it's not really showing much, to be honest. This is interesting to me. I think there's just an influx of whale activity that's causing the activity matrix to really like this asset right now. But you get the idea. I don't want to spend too much time on one obscure asset. And I know Bluzelle is not on most of your radars. I haven't even checked it in quite a while. But looking at the leaderboard tab here, so I'm going back to the activity matrix. The detailed tab is where I see this. You can also go to the anomalies tab if you just want to find, the top 3 days or bottom 3 days for any of these metrics. But I like the leaderboard as a quick shortcut to find what I need. And right now, Phantom is the most active network. Now, I'm not as excited because, as you can see down here, these are the price performances over 1 day, 7 day, 1 month, or 3 months. And over a 1 month sample size, Phantom is among the best performers in crypto. So part of the reason that it gets hot is because people are reacting to a hot performer. So when it's already a hot performer and you see the spike in network activity, it's actually oftentimes FOMO from people who are trying to get in on the pump. Now, that being said, over the past 24 hours, it's in the bottom 25% of performers. So there could be a mini rally that's forming for Phantom, but I just don't like I don't like getting too bullish on an asset that's already in the 99th percentile for any of these time intervals, because it usually is indicative of some FOMO and the network only getting hot because a bunch of retail traders are jumping into it, if that makes sense. So it's a really clever, uh, kind of complicated process to find the best assets to buy or sell. And it's not just buy. You can go to the red area here and find the coldest networks as well. Like Curve is extremely cold and seeing very little network activity. But I'm mostly looking at the top performers in terms of network activity and finding which ones are not performing well and suddenly got hot. Like Bluzelle isn't seeing anything in like the 90th plus percentile for price performance. Threshold is also a good candidate, it looks like. Aragon looks pretty good, even though it's had a pretty good week. That's why it's showing it's in the 83rd percentile in price performance. Kyber is another good candidate. Decentraland is up there. Bitcoin Cash has had a good week, but it's seeing a lot of activity. And Aave, which is the top trending token in crypto right now, is seeing a huge rise in network activity as well. So there's some good candidates here. I especially, if I had to pick two, would look at Bluzelle and Threshold for potentially a surprise mini rally of some type if Bitcoin can gain its footing and start to stabilize. Not investment advice whatsoever. I'm certainly not a trader. I just report on the news, but according to the activity matrix, this is what you can gather when looking at some of the projects that are popping up on this model here. I hope it's helpful, and let me know if you have some follow-up questions. I'll still be making more videos specifically about how to use this entire activity matrix model effectively. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Oh, well, if it isn't Brother Balance.
Yeah, I'm here the whole time. I just didn't want to break your flow.
Oh my goodness. Well, you could have, because I need a sip, and I'd love to hear what you're thinking about the markets.
Oh yeah. It's okay. I also helping Clement in the background a little bit with our event in Kuala Lumpur. Anyone on the stream, if you are there, come. Our great Clement will be giving actually introduction to some of our new products or initiatives and covering some key metrics.
Can you repeat where this is and what the event is?
Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Oh, in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some friends in Malaysia, Equities Tracker. You guys have seen our videos with them. But yeah, stop by. That's awesome.
One of our team members has lived there.
Yep. So what has been new on your end, Maksim? How are you looking at the markets these days?
Same as we discussed yesterday. After this, the most likely scenario. after we are done with, as I still believe, temporarily bounce, today, tomorrow, maybe day after tomorrow, we should try to retest real lows. Yeah, like for real. It means in the Bitcoin, once we're done with correction should be go to 63,000, maybe 64. Numbers is irrelevant. The moment you see relaxed feelings or a little bit of euphoria or a lot of euphoria, we should continue with the moving down. And then, yeah, like anything around 55 becomes interesting. So they will start, we'll need to start measuring level of fear or concerns or coming back to buy the dip or not coming back to buy the dip. And you very nicely, I saw on the stream, you mentioned this October as a narrative. We also will keep an eye on it. This should give us a sign for solid bottom. Yeah, when will it come? I don't think it's yet in. But as we have done a little bit on fear, it's a good now time, I think, for at least a few more days. And Bitcoin going to 63, 64 is possible. Ethereum maybe to 4 to 5. Actually, we already to 4. Okay, let's say to 5, 2,500 possible. Solana anyway around 150 possible. So yeah, let the markets still confuse us with few moves. But midterm, I keep an eye with quite likely move down. Yeah.
Interesting. So to clarify, you're seeing the most likely path to be a short-term recovery for Bitcoin followed by a larger fall.
Yes. Oh,
and
not
what?
Everything. I'm checking lately Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana.
Yeah, of course.
On to some degree. I still hope it will get below 4, my favorite buying point, which is already small meme in our community. Balance waiting for Toncoin to get to 4. So this is the levels, yeah. But all of them should continue way down. Yeah.
And what's your primary reason? I know we talked personally about your 5-wave theory.
Yeah.
We don't have to share it on screen, but I know that's a big part of it. Is there anything on the sentiment side that you're seeing right now besides the October stuff we talked about?
Yes, it's a constant. It's a combination of a few things. The constant rapid positivity is the moment we increase price a bit. Even now, I do believe if we get Bitcoin to 63,000, we'll get the same stories on Twitter, on media again. Everything will become positive. And this is not a good sign. Yeah, we should be going up on a kind of worrisome sentiment, unless me, myself now showing worrisome sentiment. That will be quite a sarcasm. But combination of on-chain metric network realized profit loss in Bitcoin, which is still not showing any sign of panic, worries, anything. There's no one taking profits. There are stories that all Bitcoin moved, all Ethereum, Genesis block moved, but when you look on a bigger scale, on average, on the whole network, it's nothing. Like this is so tiny spikes, and it's not how the bottom usually behaves. So. Of course, there are exceptions. Maybe this is one, but I don't like to trade on exceptions. I like to trade when I see, okay, now it's a clear sign of fear, panic, capitulation, and we go in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable. And I do agree. There's still quite a bit of positive sentiment that's even very briefly kind of returned.
Exactly. Right now it's okay. I mean, right now that's why I allow a few more days to go up, because right now there is in Twitter you can see suddenly those who usually always posting positive news, be CryptoQuant, Glassnode, anything, they suddenly show some metrics which show some concerns. Okay, good. So market can go up.
Yeah.
But for the time being. But before, like 1 week ago, I don't know, if whatever you look in the past, it's very fast. We're so good. We're doing so good. Only up 1 million, 100,000, 200,000.
I know. Yeah. And I am noticing this on October 1st, when we were really starting to dip hard, this was the biggest spike in by the dip in 2 months, ever since the huge dip that happened in early August. So there is still some optimism that this is just a temporary bump in the road still. And we'd like to see the remaining optimism go away.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're obviously late in the call, Maksim, but any other topics you want to hit on before we wish our community a happy weekend?
I think for today that's enough. You showed this October, and share maybe later on when we publish the video a link to the social search, if you
Yeah.
want a simple one. Still, just to remind people, I do believe it's a kind of important and interesting, and also now you mentioned HBO. If you look into social trends HBO, it's actually quite spiking. So I wonder what will happen next few days.
Yeah. Top 4, or actually now top 3, but the top 4 an hour ago were all related.
I think you will see how actually quite significant, on dominances of it.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm quite fascinated. Who knows if HBO really has uncovered what they claim to have.
Just enter here HBO.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
The way they announced it, like it will move and shake the markets, who knows?
I don't know about that. I don't know if uncovering Satoshi Nakamoto really is a bullish or bearish event for crypto.
It's exactly the point. It never happened before, so you had no idea. It might be just zero impact, or it might indeed move market to very volatile situation. We'll see.
The only thing I can think of is that it makes non-crypto traders more interested in crypto, because it's obviously trying to hit a mainstream audience, and people who don't really follow Bitcoin much are going, "Oh yeah, that Satoshi guy, I heard about him before." And it gets the conversation going about crypto just a little bit more. But that's the only result. I mean, within the crypto community, it's always been almost a meme that nobody knows who Satoshi is, and if we do find out, great. But it's more curiosity than anything.
We'll see. Like usually. Yeah. Looking forward. Tuesday.
Exactly.
Big event. Yeah. That's it.
Well, thanks.
Other than that, you covered everything nicely. So that's why I didn't interfere too.
Gotcha. Well, good stuff. And if you guys are in Malaysia or anywhere near it and want to go see Maksim and the team, please do. And I'll be coming out with some more content soon. Tune into our X and Twitter feed today for a couple updates as prices progress. And thanks for watching till the end, those of you who are still with us. And for those watching on replay, hello from the past. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see how much our predictions came true based on the time you're watching now.
Yeah, we will compare it next week. Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, thank you to Maksim for tuning in here, and Balresh, as always, for running a wonderful stream with no issues today. Happy to see that. And take care, everyone. Have a happy weekend. Talk to you on the next one.
Yep. Talk to you. Bye-bye.